I got the wrong screen on my screen. Okay, I'm hosting this. So there you go. Okay, there I am. Okay, now I'm here. Okay. Good morning. There you go. It's Christmas Day. Christmas Day. It's crunch time. I'm apparently the only schmuck here at RotoGrinders that gets up early on a Christmas morning to help all the people out there with their Christmas Day 5-game slate, NBA lineups. It's okay. I'm Jewish, right? Yesterday I did the really Jewish thing. The traditional thing is to order Chinese food, but I also filed my quarterly tax return, so that's like now I'm double Jewish. So that's what I did yesterday. There wasn't much going on DFS wise. So now I'm here, 11 in the morning. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, right? Kwanzaa, whoever, Hanukkah, whatever you want to do. I hope you got everything you wanted for Christmas. You woke up and there wasn't coal in your stocking or anything like that. Let me get my screen set up. I mean, this is what happens when you're producing the show. I'm looking at the chat. Hit the thumbs up button, right? I see you guys out there, right? Kofi Kwai, right? Merry Christmas, Daryl Hodgkins. Merry Christmas. Everyone's Merry Christmas. Everyone's in a good mood until obviously the Chalkies player in the slate busts, right? That's what's gonna happen today, right? Right? You're gonna play Maxi Kleber. He's gonna get 5 points. That's what's gonna happen. We know that. Okay, let me switch over to there and make sure because I have there's my YouTube screen, but. Let me get this up. Okay, there we go. Okay, now we're good. I got my microphone. I got everything. Set up. It's Christmas. I can move this over. Can I move this over and you don't see? Okay, perfect. I'm all set up. I can see everything. I can see the chat. Hit the thumbs up button. Hit the subscribe button. We're good. We're good to go on crunch time for this 5-game NBA slate. The only news that we cared about, I believe, going into the slate was Jimmy Butler's status. He was listed as questionable. He's active. He's fine. He's good to go. So Jimmy Butler is good to go on today's slate. Butler's probably the better play on Yahoo if you're playing on Yahoo. I mean, obviously he's a GPP option on DraftKings and Fanduel. So if you're playing on Yahoo, Jimmy Butler is probably a good play over there. So how you guys doing? People are asking about the graph. No, that's the YouTube broadcast console because I have 3 screens going right now. Whenever I produce a show, I got Lineup HQ going, I got Discord going, I got a YouTube chat, I got Twitter, I got my broadcast set up with all the scenes and all that type of stuff. The YouTube broadcast, I got Slack, I got so many things going on. So I don't know what window is being shared at one time, so I have to check like that. So pretty casual crunch time. Feel free to type in and put in your QQs in the YouTube chat. If you have any questions. I mean, I'm not, me, I'm not a big fan of the 2v2s, right? Let me get myself over there. Okay, now I'm nice and big in the window. There you go. Okay, but I mean, looking through projections this morning. I mean, if we let's go through site by site. Okay, let's go DraftKings and FanDuel, and then do people play Yahoo? We could talk. If you have a Yahoo question, I'm playing Yahoo. I'm playing all 3 sites today. I'm playing Yahoo Cash, I'm playing FanDuel Cash, I'm playing DraftKings Cash, and GPP. So that's what I'm doing, at least. So on DraftKings, the predominant build is going to be, as you see with Andy Means, right? Giannis and Bam, right? Probably the best point per dollar plays at their positions. And obviously they fill power forward and center positions. So Giannis and Bam are probably, because the center position is quite weak today, at least on DraftKings. On FanDuel, the pricing is pretty soft. So most likely Giannis and Bam are like the core plays for cash at least. Versus like Giannis. We have point guard value. So I don't think you need to use the point guard spot for Luka, at least not in cash games. That would be like a GPP pivot. So Giannis and Bam, and then as far as like value is concerned, I mean the popular value on the slate is value, if you want to call it that, is Maxi Kleber because Porzingis is out. He's 3,500. Not much of a play anywhere else. Like on FanDuel, I think he's 5,300. You don't have to worry about him there. But a 3,500 having a punt play, so using that. I mean, so a lot of people. This is important for GPPs. If this is going to be the chalk construction, that means all the forward spots are taken up. Forward, power forward, center, and a forward utility. So anyone that is eligible at like power forward or so is most likely going to be under-owned today on DraftKings. So we're talking about guys like Tatum, underowned, Durant, Anthony Davis, Michael Porter Jr., although Michael Porter Jr. is a much better play on FanDuel, but he'll be underowned on DraftKings at 6,700. Just taking a look at the power forward position. Brandon Ingram, I think, is a little overpriced. Zion is a little overpriced. I think the Pelicans, other than like maybe Bledsoe, maybe you could take a shot on Redick, I guess. But for GPPs on DraftKings, like you have to take a look at what is the chalk construction. Now, if you're playing large field GPPs, you want to kind of differentiate by construction more so than like I'm going to fade all the chalk. Like NBA, typically the chalk is fairly good. You may not want to differentiate all that much. So Giannis, Bam, Kleber. So obviously, if you play someone like Luka instead of Giannis, you're now opening up a power forward spot that you could play AD, you could play Durant, you could play Michael Porter Jr., you could play. I mean, Durant doesn't project all that well on DraftKings, but I mean, he obviously has a ceiling. You could still play him. Montrezl Harrell, he's more of a play on FanDuel, but you could still play him on DraftKings at 6,000. I know we're gonna get questions about Jeff Teague. I know Jeff Teague's 4,200 on DraftKings. His minutes fragility is going to be what? It's hard. We don't know the rotations that well. Can we go by just the last game? We could say the same thing with Bledsoe, right? Because Lonzo Ball, he was in foul trouble. So we have Teague's minutes at 24, which compared to maybe other places have it at 26. So just understand in our projections, like that minutes, Teague could play 22, he could play 28, he could play, who knows, right? It's 2 games into the season, so we don't really know. So Teague is still absolutely viable. I think he's going to be popular enough on DraftKings, maybe not so on any of the other sites. So if you want to use Teague as your value, I think you're using someone like Teague or Dante DiVincenzo, like someone in that range. I think most people are paying down at the guard spots today. You can tell by the construction here. Probably Kleber on DraftKings and then guards. So obviously, higher priced guards are going to come in underowned. So we're talking about guys like Jimmy Butler. He's also small forward eligible. We're talking about Luka, obviously, although he'll be owned. Steph Curry. Look, Steph Curry's 10-2. Steph Curry is a much better play on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. But Steph Curry on DraftKings, we have him projected for 10% ownership. And if a lot of people are going to play Giannis, like, doesn't it make sense to play Giannis and Steph Curry in the same lineup? Right? I mean, to me, that's the way to play Giannis and not have a chalky construction, is to hey, if Giannis has to play 34, 35 minutes, then, they're not blowing out the Warriors. Because that's going to be a narrative, right? 10-point spread. Oh, God, the Warriors look so horrible the last game. How do I play the Bucks? This game's going to be a blowout. Well, I want to leverage that ownership because people think that it's going to be a blowout. That's how I make a lot of money in GPPs in NBA, is I play the games that everyone thinks is going to blow out and then just doesn't blow out. And then actually becomes a competitive game and then everyone's underowned. So, that's my approach on this slate. And the Warriors in and of itself don't project all that well. Curry's the only one that really projects well. But if you want to take a shot on Wiggins, we have his smash percentage really low. I know he was horrible last game, but if you want to take a shot on him, I don't think it's out of the question. I think Wiseman they priced up too much at 6,200. Don't go by the blowout minutes that he played last game. I think a lot of the Warriors, other than Curry on DraftKings, are a bit overpriced, but that'll also lower their ownership. So you can do that. So looking through, feel free to post in YouTube chat. I'll answer all of your questions, even though if I might go off for a little bit, and then I'll take a look at the chat. So I am paying attention. Bruce Reynolds asks about GPP that stands out on FanDuel. I'll get the FanDuel, Bruce. Well, I'm going through DraftKings. I'm doing site by site instead. So Donnie Sullivan, DK Cash, Kleber and Giannis, or Kawhi and Lou Will. That's easily the first one. You could, if you're a RotoGrinders premium member, you get all of our projections on Lineup HQ. You could just basically lock in a guy and run and see what the best projected lineup is. And I can tell you Kawhi and Lou Will come nowhere near that. Let's see. FanDuel questions. I'm going to put in drafting questions first. We'll get to FanDuel later. Okay? Difference between smash percentage and RGV and how to correctly utilize them, Jamal. That's something that it's better to discuss on the pregame show. I'll be starting up that pregame show 11 in the morning, weekdays, on the RG YouTube channel every weekday, Monday through Friday, starting January 4th. So basically once the regular NFL football season is done. But like all those types of like how to use the tools and things like that, that's probably best saved for that show. We're in the crunch time, right? We got 48 minutes to lock. So I'm not going to necessarily be teaching how to use the tools right now. So having two chalky players is okay in a large GPP. Yeah, as long as you get Lionel Miles, as long as you get leverage in other spots, you're fine. Okay. Beatbot says Christmas LeBron. Apparently that's a narrative. We don't know, but it looks like the minutes for LeBron is going to be much lower than it was last year. And plus you have, they're not, at least from the first game, they're not like overlapping Dennis Schroeder. So like having Schroeder on the court actually takes, if LeBron's playing off the ball more often because Schroeder's handling point duties, like LeBron's not an 11K player anymore, right? LeBron's salary has to go down. DK is creating a rule where no Giannis if Bam too risky in GPP. If that's the common construction path, it would create a different construction path. Yeah, no. Nothing's too risky for GPP, right? You'd say too risky for cash games, too risky for triple ups or something. There's nothing too risky for GPPs. Fade all of them. Fade, you could fade Giannis, fade all of them if you want. I mean, if you're playing the milli, with 100 some odd thousand entries, I mean, you're gonna have to take risks. Okay, Middleton and Jaylen Brown is popping up a lot with me with Hero. I'm thinking about using a lot of them today. Okay, that's fine. I think Jaylen Brown is fine. I think Middleton on DraftKings is a GPP play at best. Hero is good on both sides. I mean, probably better on Fanduel than he is on DraftKings, but he's still a good value. He still projects well on DraftKings. So that's the DraftKings stuff. So like I'm just going through site by site because it's different pricing, it's different scoring. I mean, so different positional eligibilities. So like DraftKings, you're typically more able to jam in value because players are, look at all the multiple positional eligibility. We go over to FanDuel and everyone's stuck in a spot, right? You have to play certain guys, right? So the FanDuel pricing is soft. The common construction is going to be Steph Curry, Giannis in the power forward spot, Michael Porter in the small forward spot. Like those are obviously means he score plays. Those are the three best projected. Those are the three best projected players for their salary. Okay, center spot is kind of. Obviously, I think on FanDuel for GPPs, pay up for center. If you pay up for Bam, or you pay up for Jokic, although he doesn't necessarily project all that great, but it's still Nikola Jokic. I think if you pay up for center on FanDuel, your construction's automatically going to be different. So if you pay up, I think Bam at 8,500, I think according to our projections, based on the ownership versus his smash percentage, Bam Adebayo is one of the better plays on the slate. Because we have him with a 24% smash percentage, which comes up like it's in the top 10, 12 on the slate, and 7% ownership on FanDuel, right? So if you plug him in, right, you're either not playing Giannis or not playing Curry, probably. Like Michael Porter Jr. is just laughably underpriced on DraftKings, on FanDuel. I think Michael Porter, you have to fill the small forward spot. You're probably filling Michael Porter, Tyler Hero, Dorian Finney-Smith. You're probably doing two of those guys. Will Barton, maybe. Like Kawhi's going to be under-owned because, that construct. No one's paying up at small forward. So if you want to play Kawhi in the small forward spot instead of playing Giannis or Curry, I think that's a different construction. Essentially, Giannis and Curry are like, in GPP, you want to fade one of them. But my attitude is that on FanDuel, if you fade one of Curry or Giannis, you should fade both of them. Because it makes sense from a correlation standpoint. Like if that game ends up being a blowout, right? Well, then Giannis may only play 28 minutes. And then Curry doesn't get there. And then it seems like with the Bucks being a 10-point favorite, you're less likely to just play Curry. And no Milwaukee back. Unless you play, obviously, Middleton or DiVincenzo or someone like that. Or Drew Holiday. I think he'll be popular in the point guard spot. So for GPPs, I think the best move is to just get rid of Curry. Like, let's say, I'll just give an example. Like, look, I'm going to X out Curry. I'm going to X out Giannis. Right? And I'm just going to play the best lineup. Right? We get Ball, Holiday, Schroeder, George, Hero, Porter, Durant, Tatum, Harrell. Okay? So that's going to be a different construction. Of course, I'm not thrilled with this lineup, but let's say we pay up for Bam here and then run it. Okay? Lou Williams, George. I don't know if I want to play them both together. But look at this construction on the side over here. I know it's a little small. It's much different than Giannis Curry lineups. So on FanDuel, I think you could go with something like this. You could still play Porter and Hero in the small forward spots. But basically, once you fade Curry and Giannis, I think, and you pay up at center, I think you're different enough that even in a large field GPP, you can kind of jam in the best plays from there. Maybe pay up in the shooting guard spots for George or Jaylen Brown or something like that. I think that's the way to find leverage at least. Understand that that's the way to find leverage. That's Curry and Giannis projected as the two best point projected plays on the whole slate, right? But they're also in the same game. So if that game duds, most likely both of them dud. So in GPPs, you want to we have projected owned Curry on FanDuel, 42%. Giannis, 39%. Okay? So a lot of them will be together. So maybe 60% of that is overlap. So this could be like 60% of the lineups in the entire contest. So if that game duds on FanDuel, like you're golden without it. But you notice that I'm saying fade Curry and Giannis on FanDuel for GPPs, but on DraftKings I'm like, well, Curry's going to be low owned. So maybe the move on DraftKings is to play for that game to be close. So that's why the site that you play on depends. I mean, the strategies change based on what the ownership is, what the pricing is, what the scoring is, what everything. So I think that the move that I'm making is I'm playing a lot more Milwaukee Golden State on DraftKings for GPP. And then if I were to play FanDuel GPPs, I'm only playing cash games. I would fade it. I would play because Drew Holiday is going to be popular. DiVincenzo is going to get some ownership. Like that game's going to get ownership. Curry's way underpriced at 8,700 on FanDuel. So you could do both. If you're playing on both sites, you could play and get like a little hedge, right? So on DraftKings, like, hey, if this game is close and actually, works out, like I got some good GPP lineups on DraftKings, and then your FanDuel lineups are kind of crap, right? Because you don't have them, right? You could do something like that. So the site that you play on does matter. Okay, let's look through some of the chat. Middleton, okay, I'm getting that. Can we play Kleber and Dorian Finney-Smith in the same cash lineup on DraftKings? No, you can. You don't necessarily care as much about negative correlation in cash games. Like you don't need to hit a ceiling score. You just get the most amount of median points and you're good. So don't necessarily worry about, well, they're kind of negatively correlated a little. Like in cash games, in GPPs don't play them together. I probably wouldn't. Is Jamal Murray too risky with the Q tag? No. You want to take on risk in GPPs, right? Especially that's a 10:30 game. You may find out news. I mean, we have games. Remember, this is a slate where it's linear. Game after game after game after game. So, if you want to take advantage of optionality, fade some of the early players, and then it gives you options in the later games. The problem on this slate is that the better projected players are in the earlier games. Like, the Clippers-Nuggets game is going to be the lowest owned game on the slate. And it's the last game. So if you decide, okay, a popular strategy, if you want to do it, if you're unsure, use optionality to your advantage. So, for instance, I wouldn't mind, let's say you take a look at the first game, the Pelicans Heat game, and go, well, I like Bam, I like Hero, I like maybe Dragic, maybe Butler, Bledsoe, something like that. Sprinkle them in a bunch of your lineups. Don't go all in on one. Let's say you're playing 40 lineups. Let's say, for instance, or 20 lineups. You're playing a 20 max. And you're like, well, I'm going to play Bledsoe in a couple. I'm going to play, but not play many. You pair two in each lineup, and then you see which one does the best. And then you start pivoting as the day goes on. So it's if you're able to catch a flame emoji top scorer in the first game, then you start building that lineup for, let me jam in more chalk. Now that's the lineup I get Giannis in. That's the lineups I get. And then in the lineups that have duds, then you start pivoting to lower owned players, right? That's when now you're playing Kevin Durant on DraftKings. Now you're playing AD. Now you're playing Jokic or something like that. And you could see where you stand throughout the course of the day. Normally, you can do that on regular slates. I mean, you have 7 o'clock games and then 10:30 games, but it's just a shorter window, right? We have 13 games the other day, and they all start at different times, but the games aren't over yet. You're not exactly sure. You could make those late swaps, but here, dude, every game is going to be over by the time the next game starts, so you'll know exactly what the scores of all the players are. If you stack Giannis and Curry, this is from Big Willie, should you make the rest of the construction over the last 2 games for more optionality in case it doesn't go great? Well, I mean, you're going to know. If you stack Giannis and Curry, that's a 2:30 game, Eastern time, obviously. So I mean, if you want to fade so basically what you're saying is to fade the Pelicans Heat game and stack the Warriors Bucks game, and then if it doesn't work out, you have yeah, I guess so. You're right, but I mean, what happens if the chalk in the first game does well? You want pieces of that with your contrarian Warriors Bucks stack on DraftKings. I'm always have to say on DraftKings. On FanDuel, that's going to be popular. So, I mean, it's really up to you what you want to do. Right? You're not going to know because that's the second game. If it was the first game, then you wouldn't have a problem because obviously those are the only players that you have in your line. Jaylen Brown or BI. Well, I don't know what site you're on, but probably not Brandon Ingram. Jaylen Brown. It projects better. Marquise Chris at center in Yahoo? Probably not. Why would you play Marquise Chris at center? Yahoo center, you're probably playing Harrell at $15. That would be the best projected play at center in Yahoo. Can you pair Butler and Bam together, Bruce Reynolds? Yes, you can. On a 5-game slate, you can. A lot of times I like at their prices, at their current prices, I'm more likely to not play them together, but that would be on a much bigger slate. So on a 5-game slate, I don't think it's as much of an issue. I would lean towards not playing them together, but if you wanted to play them together, especially if you're stacking that game, if you're playing Butler and Bam, you're probably playing Pelicans. For them both to do well, probably you're playing 1 or 2 Pelicans in your lineup. Let's see. About the crunch, what should I set my range of outcomes setting at? It depends on what lineups you're building. Settings don't matter in Lineup HQ. It depends on what lineups you're building. My settings, I will play 1,000 slates over the course of a year in multiple sports, and my settings will never be different. Never be the same on any slate, from one slate to the next. Thoughts on playing Holiday? This is from Aaron Schieffer. Thoughts of playing Curry and Holiday together while fading Giannis on FanDuel GPPs. Oh, you could do that. So basically that lineup says that Giannis doesn't do poorly, but just doesn't put up a ceiling game because, Drew's getting the ball and Middleton's getting the ball and other people. Yeah, no, you could do that. Are Harrell and Davis negatively correlated enough to group max 1? I probably wouldn't. I mean, Harrell is on FanDuel, he's cheap enough. I think you could play both of them. On DraftKings, it's also a 5-game slate. So in normal times, I would say yes, I would group out Harrell and Davis, but it's a 5-game slate also. So the negative correlations between players are not that drastic most of the time, unless they come out for one another, that you could be doing that. So it's a 5-game slate. It's more viable than it would be on a 10-game. On a 10-game slate, you'd have more options. You wouldn't need to do that. Reddick or Robinson in DKGPP, I think Mahela, Rahul, yeah, they both project halfway decently. If you want to get away from a Kleber or Dorian Finney-Smith or some of those guys, Steven Adams comes up at times as a value, and you want to play Reddick or Robinson, you could do that. Just understand that those are types of players that rely heavily on shooting. So obviously it's going to be they have a wider range of outcomes. Those are guys that don't get many peripheral points. They take a lot of 3-pointers. And if they're hot, great. They could put up, for their price, they're 4K or so, and they could put up 35 points. And they're going to be in a GPP winning lineup. But if they're not shooting well or they're not getting the ball, they're sitting there with 16 points. And then you're going up. I wish I didn't play them. So yes, so they're viable in GPP, especially on a 5-game slate. Harrell or Millsap? It depends on the site. That's a real Gian. Yeah. If you're gonna ask questions, you have to say that especially in NBA DFS, you have to say the site. The pricing is drastically different. Favorite non-Kleber cheapies on DraftKings? Well, if we just look at our projections, I'm always gonna say look at the projections because that's You're asking me. I have no opinions. I play with projections. That's it. So we're looking at cheap, like basically value guys that are in that range on DraftKings. So if we just sort by salary adjusted value plus minus, which is RGV in here. So if we're looking for guys that are like 4K or less, Kleber's number one on that list. Then we got, let's see, Duncan Robinson, 4,400. DiVincenzo, 4,700. Teague, 4,200. Redick, 4,400. But still not cheap enough for Kleber. You got Olynyk. I mean, now we're getting. There's really nothing. Trey Burke, really, you gonna do that for 17 minutes? Nick Batum, but he's 4,500. There's not really many. I mean, if we take a look on DraftKings, under 4K, like 3,000 something or other, there really is not much. I mean, there really isn't. That's why do you think Kleber is going to be popular? Because in that range, the best thing to do is instead of thinking in terms of how do I play someone else other than Kleber, think in terms of how do I build a lineup that I don't need a $3,000 player. If you're playing GPPs, I think that's a better way to think this slate. Don't go, I'm going to play this lineup with Kleber and then replace Kleber and with someone else. It's like, no, just find a way to not play a lineup that needs a $3,400 or $3,500 player. I think that's the better way to go. QQ, Hero, or Bledsoe, DK Cash. I would prioritize Bledsoe over Hero based on projections, right? I think he projects a little bit better. Let me see. Well, actually, Hero projects. Hero, salary adjusted wise, they're very close to each other. Yeah, let's see. What did 29 points for Bledsoe? 30. Actually, we have Hero above Bledsoe. So yeah, okay. So based on our projections, Hero is a 2-point higher median. But obviously, it's all going to be dependent on minutes. They both are projected for 33 minutes. So if you had to choose between the two, I guess Hero would be the one. I think Bledsoe has a higher floor. Like I think, I'll make sure. Maybe he doesn't. Let's see, floor 15.26. Yeah, Bledsoe has a 5-point higher floor. So based on our projections, you could look right here. If you're a premium member, you'd sign up and know this. So they have median-wise, Hero's 31.8, Bledsoe's 29.77. So it's a 2-point better median outcome. But if you take a look at the range of outcomes, Hero is much wider. 15 to 44 versus 20 to 41. So really, in cash games, you don't care as much about the ceiling outcome. You care more about the floor. So really, for the same price, are you willing to sacrifice 2 points in median to get 5 points in floor? In cash games, you probably are. So, that's why I say, I would prioritize Bledsoe in cash games, but Hero technically has a 2-point higher median. Let's see. QQ from Donnie Watson. Do you think through your builds there's enough value to play 2 or more higher-priced guards? I'm assuming you're talking about DraftKings. I can't close to the median in my build doing that. It's a 5-game slate, so if you're 10 points off, as long as you're getting enough leverage, you're fine. The more people think that there's a number, there's no number. There's no, my lineup is 10 points off the. Who cares? Does your lineup have enough correlation and leverage to make up the 10 points? Then if the answer is yes, then it's fine. Then there you go. Well, I'm fading 3 of the chalkiest players, and they're all 50% owned. So yeah, obviously your median's going to be way lower. But you're also gaining so much relative value by not having the 3 chalkiest guys in your lineup. So there's no specific number. There are some slates that I play lineups that God knows are way off the median. Because you don't care about the median, you care about ceiling probability. The median is just a baseline number, at least so you could quickly judge. An optimizer typically doesn't give you anything else other than the median and cumulative ownership. Those are kind of blunt tools. There's nuance to that. Dinwiddie or Bledsoe for DraftKings, I think that's an easy one. That's Bledsoe. Bledsoe projects better. Let's see. Harrell or Wiseman on Fanduel. I think you're playing Harrell on Fanduel. You could play Wiseman. I think Wiseman, but more of a GPP play. I think people don't realize he got the last 5 minutes of blowout run last game. Who are the chalkiest guys for Fanduel? The guys that project well. Chalkiest guys on Fanduel. I went over it before. Curry, Giannis, Porter. That's going to be the construction on Fanduel. The chalk construction. The cash game construction. Does it make them the best plays for GPP? No. But that's going to be the construction on FanDuel. And I'll go over on Yahoo. It's on DraftKings, it's going to be Giannis, Bam, and Kleber. Everything else is kind of, you can fill it. I mean, Bledsoe's in there. I mean, everything else is up to debate. I mean, you may have to prioritize one guy over another. Those are the chalk constructions on both sites. DKGPP from Jamal Faruqi. Butler and Bam too high priced to likely both hit the target in the same game. Yeah, they're on DraftKings. Yes, but it's also, understand it's a 5-game slate. You only have so many options. So you may not need it on a 13-game slate. You're gonna need 6, 7x out of every slot in your lineup. I mean, there's just too many options. Too many people are gonna do it. On a 5-game slate, you could win a GPP with a snowflake, right? You can. Like Giannis has a snowflake and has 48 points, could still win you a GPP depending on what the scoring is in other games. You still need raw points, and obviously on the Miami Heat, Bam and Butler are the two best raw points plays on there. But Butler is not as much of a value for his price on DraftKings. But I mean, he obviously could get there. Alex asks, got any Porters or Connaughton types, assuming a Blitz blowout? No, I don't play that way. I don't predict blowouts. I assume every game that I play, every lineup that I play, the projections, I assume that the game's always going to be close. That whatever minutes they're going to get, that's the minutes that they're going to get. So I never play. I will never play guys that are like, well, if it blows out, they play the last 5 minutes of the game. Because you need to get lucky too many times. Right? You need to hit 3 times. Whenever you play blowout guys, you have to hit 3 times. Okay? What are the 3 times? 1, the game has to blow out. Okay? Right? That's the first thing that needs to happen. Number 2, that guy needs to get in and get more minutes than is expected. And then the third thing is that he has to actually produce in those minutes. So it's like, oh, I'm going to play Bobby Portis because of a blowout. It's like, well, if it blows out, and when does it blow out? Does he get just an extra 1 minute? So who gives a shit, right? It doesn't matter. And then maybe he does get an extra 5 minutes and then doesn't do anything in it. So now, why don't you just play? You could make lineups that don't rely on blowouts. I don't. Maybe you do. Do it. Have fun. I mean, I don't at all. I've never uttered in my NBA DFS career, I've never uttered, what if there's a blowout? I typically play those games. Because most people go, oh, this game's going to blow out. I can't play anyone in this game. It's like, yeah, that's why they come in 4% owned. And then it doesn't blow out. Everyone's shocked, and I win a GPP. I mean, I don't assume blowout. Bet on the game. If you think it's a blowout, over 10 points, just bet on the Bucks to win. TD Mikey says, play Bledsoe and Hero together in DK Cash. That's what I have in my current DK Cash lineup, so yes. Oubre or Jaylen Brown on Fanduel? I prefer Brown. Brown projects better than Oubre. Sterling Thies asks about ownership projections for NFL Showdown. I have no idea. If you're seeing ownership projections, you're a premium member for RotoGrinders. So just go in the NFL chat and ask, or the support chat. Jamino, I mean, he's in charge of that, so I have no idea. Harrell or Steven Adams for FanDuel. Harrell projects better. For FanDuel GPP, this is from Jonathan Riggins. I think I'm going with more balanced approach with no one over 9,800, with everyone try to jam in expensive stars. Yeah, that's a absolutely viable strategy. Most of the time in NBA DFS and GPP, you're not thinking in terms of players. You're thinking in terms of lineups. Okay? It sounds weird, but you're doing this typically in all the sports, you're doing it like this. Instead of thinking, instead of playing this guy, I'm going to play that guy, think in terms of most people are playing these types of lineups. They're going to pay up and down. They're going to play stars and scrubs, and I'm going to play a balanced lineup. Because you got to get, in NBA, you could get almost as good of a lineup. Like if the top lineup is X, like X minus one little thing could be, well, you fade this guy and you play a different construction. That's why I said on FanDuel, the different construction is paying up at center. If you pay up for center, and you pay up at small forward, one of those two positions, that's going to be a different build. Like, you're going to get on different players. You can still play good players, though. But now you're on different ones. You're not playing Giannis, but you're playing Kawhi. You're not playing Curry, but you're playing Drew Holiday. Like, you're still playing good players. So think in those terms. And especially on FanDuel, when they have those strict positional requirements. Like, it's so much more valuable there than on DraftKings, where half the players are eligible at like half the positions. So you can make so many different types of constructions on DraftKings because of the positional eligibility. On FanDuel, you're stuck in certain ones, and certain ones become way too overowned. Eric Caldwell asks, would you play J.J. Redick or Finney Smith in DK Cash? I would prefer Finney Smith. I think he has a higher floor. Redick relies too much on three-pointers, but I don't think you're crazy if you played Redick in DK Cash. Are Hero and Robinson negatively correlated in some extent for shots? Yeah, I would agree with that a little. But remember, it's a 5-game slate. Like, there's only so many options. Sean Haggerty asks, DiVincenzo or Duncan Robinson in DK Cash? I would prefer DiVincenzo. If you're stuck with Duncan Robinson, I don't think that's bad. DiVincenzo projects better. DK Tristan Thompson, what about him? It's not like he projects all that well. DJ Udini, Tatum or Ingram? Tatum projects better. Myers Leonard, a good pivot off of Kleber since he's starting now. I don't think it matters. I don't think you're pivoting off. I just don't think you're pivoting off of Kleber. I think you're just building a different type of lineup. Like, that's I don't think if you on DK GPP, if you have Kleber in your lineup and you're like, well, I'm playing the same lineup and then playing with someone, I don't think that's the best way to gain relative value at all, because you're having the same lineup as everyone else. It's just a matter of a 1v1 of a crappy guy in a 3K spot. I'd be much more likely to just like not play a guy in the 3K range. If you think Deshaun DeWalt, if you think Pat Connaughton can outscore Kleber, play him. You can, but still, I don't want my lineup to be the same as everyone else's, just that I have Connaughton over Kleber. Like, I'd rather it be a 2v2, 3v3, 4v4 than a 1v1. But you can't. It's viable. Yes, I'm poo-pooing it. Yes, it's viable. It's not something that I think that you have a much better shot at winning a GPP than doing those types of 1v1s. DK Cash, can you play Teague and Brown together? Yeah, no, you could do. Don't worry about negative correlation in cash games. Correlation increases your variance, right? So if you have positive correlation, like, that's great, but it just increases your ceiling, your range of outcomes. In cash games, you don't care about your range of outcomes. You want your range of outcomes to be narrow. So if they're negatively correlated, that caps your ceiling. But it's a double up. Who cares? You don't have to come in first in a double up. As long as you come in the top half, you're good, right? So the negative correlation, sometimes you embrace negative correlation in your cash lineup because you raise your floor by doing that. MD says, please play Leonard. He's projected for 12 minutes. I will cancel out basically MD is saying, if you play Myers Leonard, you're probably paying the rake. Projection's good for Zion on FanDuel. Yeah, he's okay. Zion on FanDuel is perfectly fine. If you want to play Zion over Durant on FanDuel, like on FanDuel Cash, you can do that. There are good lineups with Zion instead of Durant. Most likely on FanDuel, you're paying up twice at power forward. So obviously the contrarian construction would be to pay down at power forward. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you do that on FanDuel. There's not many options there. But yes, it will be different. So I got 2 minutes left, right, for this crunch time. Went over DraftKings, went over FanDuel. I'm playing. What I'm doing is I'm playing cash and GPP on DraftKings, cash on FanDuel, cash on Yahoo. I can't do GPPs on multiple sites at once, especially doing a show. Like I'm playing 30 lineups on DraftKings for GPP. I didn't even build them yet. I'm gonna be using the optimizer. Essentially, I know what I'm in. I already told you what I'm gonna do. I'm concentrating on that Milwaukee Golden State game on DraftKings and playing a lot of that. And hopefully it doesn't blow out. And if it does, then too bad. I lose. Right? So that's what I'm doing. And I'll be doing it right. I'll be doing it right now. Typically, I may be playing more lineups, but this is what I have to do. I'm sacrificing for you people. Right? It's Christmas morning. I'm up. Right now, we have 682 concurrent viewers on YouTube. I don't know how many people listening in the RotoGrinders app for the audio. Do you really hate your families that much? It's Christmas morning. Why are you having cocoa, right? Cocoa with the whipped cream or something like that? Is that what people do? I don't even know what people do. What do people do on Christmas morning? All I know is it from movies. I just know Christmas stuff from movies. They get up, the kids run down the stairs and, the presents. But typically they wake up way early. So what are you doing at 11 o'clock now? What is it? Is it nap time yet? I have no idea. Steve Lynn asks, what's your take on the Dallas Wings? Finney Smith versus Richardson versus Hardaway. Based on our projections, I'd rank them 1 Finney Smith, 2 Richardson, and 3 Hardaway. I don't have any take. That's what the projections say. Boy. So I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas. I hope if you're not in my contest, I hope you take one down. Right? If you're in Fanduel GPPs, since I'm not playing the GPPs on Fanduel, I hope someone takes the big contest down there. Hopefully you're not duplicating me. I'm not playing that many lineups into the $25 millionaire. I think I'm playing 10. I'm playing 30 total, right? I was just going to play like 5, but I think it's going to overlay a bit. So I'm like, okay, I'll play 30 entries, whatever. DKGPP, does a conditional rule of if Curry then use Giannis make sense? Absolutely. That is what I'm going to be doing on DraftKings. Sargon KH asks, do you believe in the revenge game for Kyrie? I don't believe in revenge games at all, so no. Okie doke. I'm going to get out of here now. Got to build my lineups. I got 17 minutes left to go. Let's see. Hopefully everything works out for me. I got my my cash lineups in everywhere. And I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday. Wonderful holiday. And remember, starting January 4th, Monday, January 4th, once the NFL regular season is done, I will be doing a show every weekday, Monday through Friday, at 11 in the morning on the RotoGrinders YouTube channel, on the RotoGrinders website, in the RotoGrinders app. You'll be able to get the audio. The podcast feed. If you subscribe to the Daily Fantasy Fix podcast feed, it'll be put in there. 11 in the morning, every day, DFS pregame show. It's like DFS school, right? It's like a teaching session. We review yesterday's slate. We look at projections for the next games, slate. Obviously, it's the morning, so news happens, and you can throw most of that out. But go through and I answer. Basically, it's Q&A. We hang out. I answer questions, right? We go through, how you build better, how to better build lineups, how to study top players, how they built lineups the day before, and we learn some stuff. So tune into that. Subscribe to the RotoGrinders YouTube channel. Hit that thumbs up button. That helps us out, apparently. At least they tell me it does, right? I'm supposed to say that. Do I get judged by the number of likes, by the number of thumbs up? Maybe I do. I have no idea. But do that. Tune into that show. And I wish, if you're not in my contest, I wish you good luck today and a Merry Christmas and a happy holidays from me and everyone at RotoGrinders.com.